Hey, how you doing? It's the Tom and Ed podcast, episode number 2. And this one, we're going to be talking about Star Trek Voyager. Some of the best episodes, some of the worst ones, and our opinion of the overall series, I guess. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Yeah, good.
What are your overall thoughts on Voyager? What would be your original thought?
I like Voyager. I think some people don't like it, but I think it's a pretty good show overall. I don't like it as much as Next Generation or the original series, but it is one that I go back to pretty often.
Where
You
would you
know,
place it against Deep Space Nine? Right, because
this is probably controversial, but I like watching it more than Deep Space Nine.
okay.
I think it's a more fun show to watch overall, and I feel like Deep Space Nine is kind of a commitment to almost watch the whole show when you watch it because of the continuity in it.
It's a
Whereas
bit, yeah,
Voyager, you go on an episode like Next Generation.
yeah, yeah. It's easier to follow along with the episodes in Voyager when you're watching one at a time, at least.
Yeah,
Like you can
yeah,
pick
exactly.
through any of the episodes from the seasons, and you're good. But
Right.
the thing that we talked about before was character development a little bit in the show.
Yeah,
I feel like character development in Deep Space Nine was very good, especially in
yeah,
comparison to Voyager. Uh,
yeah. Much better character development in Deep Space Nine than Voyager, no question about it.
yeah,
Um, Even if I didn't like the direction of some of the characters, they at least developed more than they
yeah,
did
they
in
at least
Voyager.
had some kind of a change, a dramatic change in their life.
Yeah, for sure.
Every
Definitely.
character in Deep Space Nine, I feel like.
Yeah, a lot of the characters on Voyager remain the same. With the exception of the Doctor and Seven,
Yeah,
there's not a lot of growth outside of those characters.
yeah, Chakotay especially. I
Yeah,
feel like
Chakotay
Chakotay
is
just stands still the entire show.
he just got a raw deal on that show. He didn't get much to work with.
He's a one-trick pony. All he does is talk about his ancestry and his spirit guide, and like that. He's just Native American. You're like,
I know. And like they had like a I heard they had a Native American consultant for the show for Chakotay, and he turned out to be like a total fraud. So
oh, okay.
every bit of information he gave them was like not real.
Okay, well, that makes a lot more sense then. But I
Yeah,
mean,
now it makes sense.
they tried to go through and do the work and actually get the right kind of person for the job. So I feel bad about that. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and
exactly.
I like Robert Beltran as an actor.
Yeah, me too.
He was in a Chuck Norris movie, Lone Wolf
Oh, was it?
Parade. Yeah, he played
Oh,
his.
yeah, I never saw that.
Oh,
He
it's a
was
crazy one.
he was also in another sci-fi movie called Night of the Comet. I don't know if
Oh
you've ever
yeah,
seen that. It's
no.
uh it's like an end of the world movie. He and a group of people are like the last people left on Earth. It's very 80s. And
Oh
like there's
yeah,
sort of like these zombie creatures that he's got to fight off. It's a fun movie, but
I'll
it's
write
pretty
that
silly.
down. Night
Yeah,
of
you should check it out sometime. Night of the
the.
Comet.
Yeah. All right. Well, as far as Voyager goes, like, who are your favorite characters, and who are your least favorite characters? What
Well,
direction do you go with that?
my favorite characters are the Doctor, Seven of Nine, Tuvok, um, and those might be the top three for me.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I like the Doctor. He's my favorite.
yeah,
He's
he
definitely the most relatable character somehow out of the whole show. You
yeah.
know.
If he wasn't on the show would be I wouldn't rank it nearly as high as I do.
Yeah.
He makes the show for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little earlier when we were trying to summarize what we were talking about. The Doctor, he's got some episodes that aren't the best, but
Yeah,
like he's still the greatest character, and even those episodes that aren't the best lend to his character development a little bit.
yeah.
You know,
And the actor is so fun to watch. He's always funny
yeah,
and he's so great.
yeah, I think he's awesome too. What
Yeah.
about your least favorite characters?
My least favorite characters are Harry Kim, and I want to like Harry Kim, but I just think he's written so blandly that it's
Yeah.
impossible to like him. There's nothing to the character at all.
Well, he
Um,
plays the clarinet.
he plays the clarinet. That's like the most exciting thing about him.
Yeah.
That's all. And he wears a sleep mask at night because
Oh,
it reminds him of being in the womb. That's how crazy he is. Like he has a memory of being in the womb in one episode.
all right.
And Kess, I also don't like Kess that much. I think she's kind of a pretty weak character, especially since she left the show.
I agree with you there. I feel like Kess, as far as a character, was given a raw deal because
Yeah,
they get to, like, her potential is 9 years,
yeah,
like lifespan. So it's like that kind of cuts things off or limits you in your storytelling ability right away. It doesn't really open a lot of other doors, I feel like.
yeah. It's like all you can really do is watch her age as
Yeah.
the show goes on. It's like it's like having it's worse than a dog. I mean, it's like it's
Yeah.
like having
It is
a
worse than a
hamster or
dog.
something.
He only lives 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
very limiting as a character, I feel like. And then it makes anybody else she's involved with, like Neelix, like seem
yeah,
creepy,
it's
for dealing
weird.
with her. It makes him seem extra weird. It's like she's a year
Yeah.
old or two, and he's like, trying to
Yeah,
mess
he's like
around with her.
trying to date her and he's jealous of her. And Tom Paris was in on it too. So that was
Yeah.
kind of weird.
Yeah, Tom Paris was actually jealous.
Yeah.
It was,
And they got into like a food fight over it.
yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, there were some episodes that were pretty ridiculous, but there were
Yeah.
a lot of good ones too. I'd like to get into that too. So I liked Voyager overall too. I thought
Yeah.
it was a good bridge between Deep Space Nine and Next Generation, even though it kind of happened at the same time. That would have
Yeah.
been a better in between show, than Deep Space Nine right off of Next Generation. I feel like.
Yeah.
At least the feel of the show, like I don't know about storytelling wise or whatever, but as far the feel of it definitely felt like it was trying to go in the same direction as Next Generation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they meant to do that, but that's how it ended up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Janeway as a character? Like I feel like she's one of the most popular captains. She's the only
Yeah.
woman captain. So
Yeah.
in the Star Trek universe, or at least it's not the only one. We got Michael Burnham in Discovery too.
Yeah. But for a while, she was the only one.
But for a while, she was the only captain.
Yeah.
And for the only woman captain, I feel like they kind of did her a raw deal too. She was a little inconsistent as
Yeah. I think very inconsistent. There's some episodes where I think she's great, but there's also episodes where I think she's like insane.
yeah.
She's like lost her mind. Like there's that two-parter called Equinox where there's that
Oh,
other ship
yeah. With
and
those
she's like
beings that they murder for energy or whatever.
right, yeah,
Like
and she's
that was
like
a
got
kind
the
of dark storyline.
right, and she's got like this moral stance, but then she's like willing to torture the Equinox crew in one of the scenes. It's really weird. Like she's threatening to kill one of them in like an
I don't
interrogation, and
remember
she's
that.
like serious about it. She's not joking.
Yeah.
So that was like bizarre for
It
me. Like
was.
I mean, even Cisco, I can't even see Cisco doing something like that.
Oh, I could. I could imagine Cisco do anything. That character, I love the Cisco character, but the
Yeah,
actor himself, he didn't do it for me. Like I feel like he would have been better off with Tony Todd playing that part. Yeah,
yeah. Tony Todd was up for it. I would have loved Tony Todd as Cisco as a regular on
yeah,
that show. That would have been amazing because I'm
yeah,
such a Tony Todd fan. But Cisco like he poisoned a whole planet just to get one guy. Like
yeah,
that's how crazy he can be too.
yeah, yeah. He was a wartime captain though. Cisco, you
Yeah,
know,
he really
so
was.
he had to deal with all kinds of different decisions that other captains wouldn't. And as a character, I feel like he was the most developed out of all the captains. Like
Yeah,
more about his personal life than you do, especially Janeway. What do you know about her personal life? She doesn't have
yeah.
a mother that cooks New Orleans or whatever. Like Cisco's got his dad, you
Yeah,
know.
he's kind of the only captain with a real family, you know, like he's
Yeah,
got a kid, he's got a dad, and then he eventually has a girlfriend, which is like, you know, not
kind
really
of.
heard of for the other captains, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. He was definitely the most real out of the characters. They added a lot of that, but
Yeah,
we also talked about that with Voyager, how Voyager failed a little bit in the character development, you know, area
yeah,
of the show when they could have developed their characters a little more. They focused more on having it be like more of an anthology style series with different, standalone episodes. And
yeah.
the effect of that Deep Space Nine has had on shows is clear. Like every show today is serialized, every single one.
It's true,
Like
yeah.
even
Eh,
the Star Treks that they put on now, like
Yeah.
Picard, it's completely serialized.
Yeah, and there's positives and negatives to that. Like it's cool in a way to see the continuity, but if you don't like one episode, odds are you're not going to like the whole season
Yeah,
because it's like it's all connected, you know?
exactly. And that's with me. Season one and two of Picard, or
Yeah,
like that, where it's like I don't have any reason to go back and watch it. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like
I know what you mean.
might not be a popular view, but I don't. Like once I saw it, all the surprises, are gone.
Yeah, it's over.
They held
I
it for
think it has
twists, and like there's no rewatchability to it. Like,
exactly.
and that's one of the
That's a
things
problem with that.
I was going to bring up about Strange New Worlds. And there have been some goofy episodes of Strange New Worlds too, but it's more
Right.
standalone anthology style writing where I
Yeah.
can go back and rewatch an episode and it's fine. And that kind of
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either. I've only seen the first episode of the first season. But that to me is a better way to go. Because if you have a bad episode, well, we'll start over next week. Maybe it could be good, you know? So
yeah.
that's kind of like the way I look at it. Like that's what I prefer.
I prefer
Um,
Star Trek, yeah, to be less serialized. Just because of the episodes, like and the strange stuff you'll deal with. They're spitballing all the time. Like if you go back to the original series, especially, yeah,
yeah.
every other episode, you kind of you got to take with a grain of salt sometimes, because they're they're so ridiculous. They're so out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like there's
Otherwise,
some
they
episodes where it's like it's hard to believe this is even happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't have been able to get out and branch out and do those episodes if it wasn't for, this that style of writing,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
like you wouldn't have the good episodes if you didn't have the bad episodes too, because they had to try it all, they didn't know what would turn out good, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
especially with like the Abraham Lincoln
Yeah.
episode and,
Yeah.
there were a bunch. I could just go on and on. Really, the
Spock
way to
gets
Eden,
his brain
Spock's
stolen.
brain. Yeah, there were silly ones.
Yeah,
Absolutely
really
ridiculous.
silly ones.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like with Strange New Worlds, they definitely throw the silly ones in there. But storytelling wise, they're getting it in, and they're at least getting their message in there the way that the older episodes were. With kind of
Yeah.
reading between the lines a little bit,
Yeah.
is involved in watching Star Trek. I feel like it's necessary. If you can't
Yeah.
read between the lines, then what are you watching it for? Like,
Yeah. You want it to leave you thinking a little bit, you know?
yeah,
And it's whereas like a whole season of stories that's connected isn't necessarily going to do that, I don't think.
yeah.
Unless it's done really well. It would have to be perfect almost, you know?
I feel like it's funny you say that too, because you're right. In Deep Space Nine, like my favorite episode of Deep Space Nine is The Visitor, the
Right.
one
Yeah.
with I just said his name before, Tony Todd.
Tony Todd. Yeah.
Yeah, and he plays Jake Sisko, and
Right.
that's my favorite episode, and that's a
Yeah.
standalone. You know,
That's up there for me too. Yeah. And it's a totally standalone episode. Yeah. And
yeah,
I love that one too. Yeah.
yeah. That's funny how that works out. Yeah, and Voyager went in this direction. And strangely, I think I might have more favorite Deep Space Nine episodes than Voyager. And I wasn't
Right.
even meaning to compare the two shows. It's just that
Yeah.
Next Generation is really my favorite, I think.
Yeah.
I grew up most with that. And, I original series, obviously, I grew up with too, but I got
Yeah.
into later after watching more of Next Generation, I feel like. And
Yeah. Same here.
it opened the door a little bit, especially when I was like a teenager. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, Voyager, it lands somewhere in the middle because it's like there are some good episodes, but there are a lot of strange episodes too. I think I have
Yeah.
more favorite DS9 episodes than I do Voyager. And
Yeah. I might feel the same way too, honestly, if I really looked at it. But what I like about Voyager is the concept. I like that they're the only Star Trek show that's actually trying to get home instead of
yeah,
exploring more of the galaxy. And
yeah,
I think it's kind of a lost potential a little bit because
they don't
there's a
really
lot more
do.
they could have done with it.
Yeah, they don't really explore as much as they just on a trip to get home.
Yeah.
And even at
I mean,
the
they do a lot of side quests though. Like
yeah, yeah, they do.
they
I
have a lot of
love those.
those.
Yeah. Well, I'll start off by listing some of the top episodes of Voyager. And, I'll
Sure.
start with one of the ones I was surprised by, which wouldn't be up there for me, is Caretaker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Caretaker's on the list for top episodes. It's like, I think number 6 or 7 or
Oh,
something.
really?
Yeah. And I feel like that it sets the entire show up.
Yeah. It
But
does. Yeah.
I don't know if it really did it that well because the whole show hinged off that one alien sending Voyager, you know, away.
Yeah. And
And it was
the
strange
alien
circumstance.
becomes is not really a factor later on as much.
No,
Like it's
it's
just
like
that
by
one
episode
thing.
2, he's already
Yeah.
forgotten. It's
Yeah.
like it was a strange reason to get out there. I feel like it would have been better off with like a black hole or a wormhole or
Yeah.
some kind of other accident that would have gotten him out there as far as plot wise speaking. It's like it
And
was,
they set it up to where they could have gotten home,
yeah,
but they just didn't because Janeway felt like she had to save Kess's species,
yeah. And they
from the
threw
from the
that in
caretaker.
that like an afterthought character development for her. They're like, wait a second, this is an opportunity for us to really capitalize on how sad the captain is about her decision. And they had
Yeah.
like one episode she goes into a full depression where she
Yeah,
has
but that's
to come
much
out of
later too. Like
yeah,
that's like
I
years
know.
later.
She's like, I was the one who did it. And it's like,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah, obviously we all know that.
yeah, we
It's
were all
weird that it took you
there.
this long, quite frankly.
Yeah, but I thought it was funny that Caretaker was listed as one of the best episodes because if you go back and rewatch it, it's probably one of the slower paced.
Yeah, it's not a great premiere. I
No,
it's
it wasn't. I mean, I wasn't impressed with DS9's premiere either, or Next
no,
Generation.
yeah.
Like, I feel
Yeah,
like
I think
they all
they
got
all
a
kind of have lackluster premieres, I think.
yeah.
Um, it's
That's
just kind
true.
of the way it is.
Yeah, even Enterprise. If you go into
Yeah,
any of
Enterprise
the
is
other
another
Star
one.
Trek shows, I feel like they all had like lackluster premieres.
Yeah, and they all feel like they have to start with a two-parter, and I feel like that just makes it drag
Yeah,
so much more because there's
yeah,
so much setup that they have to do, and like they're just poorly paced episodes usually the premieres. I think anyway.
yeah. I mean, even going back to the Cage, you know,
Yeah,
which I
yeah,
I enjoy the Cage, but
I like Cage too. Yeah,
it's like a long movie though. You know,
yeah, it is
it,
a little bit.
it's like an old classic movie from the '60s.
Yeah, and it almost feels more like a Twilight Zone than it does a Star Trek episode in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
because it's got that kind of sort of cerebral sci-fi that the show sort of backed away from as it went on.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And I feel like that was a good thing a little bit,
yeah, it can be.
it
Although I
turned out
like
what
some of
we
the
chose.
more heady episodes too, but that one was really heady. In fact, they had giant heads in that
It
episode.
was, yeah, good one.
Yeah,
It was
their
heavy.
heads were like giant balls.
Yeah, they had big butt heads.
Yeah.
All right. Next episode on this list, I got Endgame also. So the
Oh,
first
so
and
the
last episodes.
first and last episodes. Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
weird. I, I like Endgame, I think, more than most people do, but it's kind of a divisive
controversial.
episode.
Yeah,
Like I feel like some people really hate that episode.
yeah,
So it's weird to see it as one of the top ones.
yeah. Well, I know it's one of my personal favorites because the whole
Yeah.
show you're waiting for something to happen, you know,
Yeah. Something
and
finally happened.
something finally happens, and it like happens in a big way. That Janeway comes back in time and has this armor technology, which they never mention again. Like
Right. Like that should have
somehow.
wrecked the timelines
Yeah, it
totally,
should have
but
should have totally screwed the timeline up and everything when they get there. And Picard, their ship should have all been armored, you know,
yeah,
if
exactly.
that's the way you're going with it. But
And they should have an advantage over everyone because it's like,
but you can
30
argue
years
that
worth of technology.
they know that it would influence their timeline or something like that. I guess you can
Mhm.
argue that, but
Yeah.
still, it's kind of silly that the Janeway, gets caught kind of in this paradox because she changes the past. So she's
Yeah.
not around you know, to be there to save herself in the first place,
Yeah.
now. So it's kind of going with the Back to the Future, change the past kind of, changes the future kind of rather than it be looping around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
so I guess that's good. They kind of went with that, which they do in most of their time travel. Like I feel like the Kelvin timeline is the only one that they were like, this timeline is different than it was supposed to be. Like and they well, I guess Enterprise C too.
Yeah.
Yesterday's Enterprise,
That's
but
true. Yeah.
they're like in a different universe, and that's the way time travel works. So
Yeah.
yeah, Endgame was a pretty good one. I enjoyed it. I thought it
Yeah.
kind of closed up really fast at the end though, and started
Yeah.
out slow. And so like they could have paced that one a little differently, but it ended with
Yeah.
a bang and they're at Earth, and there wasn't much of the like
It would have been nice if there was more of an epilogue to where you could see
yeah,
maybe a scene where Tom Paris is actually in the same room as his dad for
yeah.
once. Like, like we never saw that.
Yeah, they
You'd
were
think that we
leading up
would.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give his dad a hug or something. Show that
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
while the
Exactly.
credits roll, show them like all having a good time on Earth or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That would have been a good ending to the show. I feel like
Yeah.
it did end rather abruptly,
It
and
did. Yeah.
especially for a show that had episodes like this. The next on the list, the Year of Hell,
Oh
parts
yeah.
one and
Yeah.
two, which
Yeah. That's one of my favorites as well. Yeah.
it does the time travel again, except
Yeah.
in this, they're a little bit more of the time loop that I was just mentioning. Like
Yeah. It's also
time
like a
travel from
time bubble. You
yeah,
know.
it's like they're protecting themselves from the timeline, and
Right.
they change everything else without being affected. And it's like
Right.
if they weren't doing that, they obviously wouldn't have existed for a long time because they like destroyed their civilization with this time travel thing. And
Yeah. And they're not aging while they're trying to do it, while they're trying to
yeah,
reset the timeline.
and Red from
So
the '70s show is the bad guy.
yes, Clarence Boddicker from RoboCop also. I love that guy. He's great.
Yeah, he was really great in RoboCop. That was one of my favorite movies ever. And
Yeah, I love that. And he's great in that too.
yeah, he was a ridiculous villain. But he was
Yeah.
also a good villain in The Year of Hell. But he
Yeah,
was
he was great.
he was hell bent on trying to get his wife back or something, or his
That's
family.
right. Yeah, he was trying to get the Krenim Empire back, but he also wanted his wife back too. And that was like the one thing that wasn't happening for him,
Yeah.
which is weird. I don't know why that was so difficult to. I
I don't
forget. I
know.
forget. It's been a while since I've seen it, but like, why was that so difficult to rectify?
I don't.
You know?
I thought it was funny the way that it worked a little bit. How he would erase a civilization and somehow that would change like his planet, and his
Yeah,
planet would be better off, without a different race. Yeah, I enjoyed that episode, but I did think that was kind of silly.
Yeah.
Like he was able to manipulate all these different timelines, and they're so powerful. And they're able to protect the timeline. Why weren't they able to protect the Krenim Empire or whatever
Yeah.
from this temporal distortion? Like
Yeah. It's like this super advanced time travel device, but it's so inaccurate.
yeah.
You know?
And how's it know that the timeline was restored? Like
Yeah, I don't know how they scan that.
they scan it, they calculate it somehow, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
timeline's off, and it shows like the different lines and whatever, and
Yeah.
like,
I
it
It
prints
doesn't
out a
make much
graph
sense,
like
but
Microsoft Excel or something. And
yeah.
yeah,
And that episode, I think, might have been better if it went on for more than two episodes,
yeah.
because it's called the Year of Hell, but it's kind of wrapped up very quickly, you know?
Yeah, yeah. This is once they could have used the serialization like three or
Yeah,
four
they could have
episodes.
done it for like one season, and it would have been interesting to see them try it, you know?
Yeah, that's
Might
kind
have
of
been a risk, but who knows?
like one of the plot decisions that they just went into with Discovery. I told you about. You don't watch Discovery, but
Right, yeah.
they went into the future or whatever, 1,000 years in
Yeah, I
Discovery.
heard that, yeah.
And it's like that's where the show's taking place now. Like it's no longer in
Yeah,
the past. It's in the future by 1,000 years. So it's
yeah,
like they at least did that in Discovery, yeah, which I think is pretty cool. That they totally changed, the setting for a season.
yeah.
You know,
I wish that's where the whole show started. Like, kind
yeah,
of, like if that was the first episode where they went into the future, that would have been
it would
perfect.
make sense to me with a drive that can blink you anywhere. And
Yeah,
like, yeah, that technology doesn't exist anywhere else. Like, come on,
yeah. Star Trek
like
is nowhere.
you wouldn't
I,
use that if you had it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I
so
guess we have to
silly.
just look at it like it's trans warp drive. Like they had it for a little while and then they don't have it anymore. Like
Yeah,
it's
what was Transwarp Drive also? Yeah.
it's apparently something that never worked. Even though, like the captain of the Excelsior
I
was
feel
like,
like Scotty ruined it,
yeah,
you know?
he broke the entire technology by pulling those bolts out. Like, oh, we have to scrap this now. We don't have those bolts anymore. What are we gonna do?
Yeah. If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon.
That's right.
All right. Yeah, Year of Hell was a good one. I enjoyed. Uh,
Yeah,
Also left off like an ominous ending. He's still messing with the timelines, at the
yeah,
end when they finish, they like roll credits. He
yeah. Wait, isn't it? Doesn't his wife is back at the end, isn't she?
wife is back at the
But
end, and
he's still working on it, so it's gonna like happen again.
yeah,
So
he's
yeah,
gonna just fall into the same pattern of the
yeah. It's like yeah, it becomes like a loop, sort of. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I appreciated that. I thought that was a good end to the episode. It's like, oh,
yeah, it was.
again. But Timeless is next,
Oh, yes.
and I
I,
like that. It's what, season two, or I don't have the episode numbers here.
Timeless is season 5, episode 6. I have here.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, I like that one. That one is great because it's both a Harry Kim and a Chakotay episode that's actually good. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's like
It's,
it's really well done. I think.
yeah, I like that episode. I like the fact that Harry Kim turned into a little bit more of a gruff character.
Yeah, because he was living with that guilt. He feels like he got Voyager killed, which he kind of did. And then he has like 20, 30 years of trying to fix it with Chakotay.
yeah.
Yeah, and Jordy is in that one too. He has a little cameo in that one. I think he actually directed it. LeVar Burton might have directed that one,
I
if
wouldn't.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. That was a good one. I like that. I feel
Yeah,
like for some reason that was earlier in the show than
yeah. So do I. But no, it was like season 5. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Season five. Huh. All right.
yeah.
Well, next one I got on this list, number 4, is Blink of an Eye. That
Oh,
one.
I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. That's the one with the doctor, and he beams down to the planet and kind of
Yeah,
lives.
the planet where time is totally different, and it's shaped like a donut or something. Like the planet is like a completely weird shape because of the gravity or something. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like time for them is passing by, far faster than it does for us.
yeah,
So
I like that because it's cool sci-fi to me. Like that's what I liked about it.
yeah,
And I think they were pretty creative with what they did with it.
yeah, I like the differential in the time. I feel like
Yeah,
that adds a weird dynamic to it, but from a storytelling point of view and from a watch point, it's like
yeah,
gets you thinking a little differently. When you're like thinking about how fast time is traveling down on the planet. You know,
yeah. It's
but
crazy. And Voyager completely screwed up that whole society.
they
Like it changed everything. The total Prime Directive violation was happened in that episode.
understand. I don't understand the science of the planet spinning that fast to begin with, but
Yeah, me neither. And that there could be life on it, like when it's going that fast.
and it gets affected by something in its gravitational, pull like that,
Yeah,
like it was having tidal forces the way the moon would, but Voyager's not big enough to have that kind of an effect, like
right. Yeah,
regardless.
it's small even for a starship. So.
I mean, any starship, it would be, just
Yeah,
moon. It would be a
yeah,
moon.
it wouldn't matter.
But yeah, either way, that
Yeah,
that was a good episode. I liked the development of the Doctor and how he was able
yeah,
to live a life down on the planet.
I know, right? Didn't he like have a girlfriend or get married or something
Yeah,
while he was down there? Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty crazy. But he was still so happy to get back. So I guess he didn't love it that much.
Yeah, he was a big plant or fan of some new sport that they played. I forgot what was it, like squash.
Oh, yeah, I forget the name of it too, but he loved it. He was talking to one of the aliens from the planet there about it.
Yeah. Uh, then I got Living Witness next on the list. I think this is a
Oh
good
yeah,
one too.
that's
Uh,
a great Doctor episode too.
it's
That's
it's almost like a mirror universe episode because
Yeah. In fact, I think a lot of people when they first saw it thought it was going to be a mirror episode because they're so evil.
yeah, yeah. This
Yeah.
this museum found parts from Voyager, or
Hmm.
uh, they found parts from Voyager, and they open a museum, and their whole storyline is that Voyager was like evil and warlike, and
Right. Yeah.
from their
Just
perspective in history, they don't know the full story. So yeah,
right.
but I feel like it was pretty fun, and yeah,
Yeah.
and Robert Picardo the whole time. So it was a good show.
Yeah. And that's an episode that doesn't really have the Voyager crew in it as we know them. Like it's like none of the characters are the characters we know. Even the Doctor is like a copy of the Doctor.
Yeah,
So it's like not even really him.
yeah, and
So
he's
it's
sick. Yeah, he was pretty funny too. He's an
yeah. He's a
not
what?
he was an android.
Yeah, that's right. He was an android, an evil android. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have for top episodes. Do you have any other top ones on there?
Yeah, I got a couple that I like. Let's see here. Scorpion is a two-part episode. That was the introduction of Seven of Nine.
Ah,
Uh, and I thought that was one of the better Borg episodes in the whole show, where they make this deal with the Borg because of species 8472,
uh,
and they end up getting Seven of Nine out of it too. And yeah, I thought that was a really cool two-part episode. Um, also, what else? Um,
well, let's talk about the introduction of 7 and 9 real quick. That was
oh
a
yeah,
huge part of the show.
yeah, big part. Yeah,
It was like,
they were clearly trying to shake things up by adding a new character.
yeah, they were.
I think the ratings were not doing so good, and they needed somebody to come along. And obviously, they made her like, they made her like eye candy at first, at least.
Yeah.
But luckily, she developed into like a pretty good character. So
Well, I don't know. The latest in Picard, she seems kind of not the same character.
well,
Yeah.
I'm not even necessarily counting that because it's so different, and I just don't like that she's a pirate who drinks, and it's like where'd they get that idea? I don't even know. It doesn't make sense to me.
I think in the newer Star Trek, it's very cool to drink. It's like the
Yeah,
cool.
everyone is a drunk in Picard. Everyone is just knocking them back. It's
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I guess
You think that'd be one character, but no, it's every character has a drinking problem.
every single one. Well,
Yeah,
they enjoy drinking. It's not that they have a drinking problem, you know.
right. Well, Raffi does. She's got a drinking and a drug problem,
Yeah.
and that pilot's name, that who's that guy? Rios, who was the captain of, who like stayed back in time with his girlfriend. That like that's not going to fuck up the timeline. I guess they weren't worried about that, but he was a drunk too. Like,
But he was just gonna hang out there and be drunk. He wasn't gonna change the timeline. He was
yeah,
just
I guess that's true.
gonna
I
hang.
guess that's true. He's just going to drink a lot. He's going to drink other people's booze. Maybe he was going to sober some people up by drinking too much. They wouldn't have it.
They wouldn't have as much booze.
Yeah. Hey, what are you barking at? Dogs have opinions too.
Oh, yeah. Well, they all do. Uh, yeah, my list, I already got through my favorites and least favorites. But as far as
Yeah.
Voyager as a whole, I like the show probably third or fourth best, you know.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where I would rank it too.
Next
Um,
generation. I liked the original series obviously too. Yeah.
yeah. We didn't talk about the bad ones yet. So if you have any least favorite episodes,
Yeah, I do. Definitely. One of my least favorite Voyager is Fairhaven.
oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a really stupid one.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty goofy.
yeah, Janeway like deletes this character's wife.
Yeah, because she likes him.
He's like, delete the wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she liked Michael Connington or whatever his name was.
O'Sullivan, or maybe it was just Sullivan. I don't know.
Yeah, something.
Something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I think it was Sullivan. So
Yeah.
some Irish. But yeah, either way, that's a pretty horrible episode, and it's
Yeah.
like it's followed up with the other one, Spirit Folk, which is
That's
like
right.
almost the same kind of episode. The same exact crap was going on,
Yeah, they
except
start to revolt in that one, right?
yeah, because
And Harry Kim kisses a cow.
they see Harry Kim kiss a cow, and they think
Yeah.
that they're like witches or something. Yeah.
Yeah, because Katie O'Clair turned into a fucking cow or something.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kate Claire. Yeah, that's one of the those two are probably easily to me the worst. Uh,
Yeah.
but
I'm
there are
with you on
plenty.
that.
Tattoo also. I don't know
Yeah,
if
which one was that?
that was the one where Chakotay was like talking to the ancient people or something through his tattoo.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the Chakotay episodes in general are usually not pretty good. Like
Yeah, I mean, they're just like beating down that Native American stereotype like terribly, you know.
yeah,
Every
it's
time
it's
he's on there.
it's
Yeah,
so bad.
yeah. I like to say for fun, I say Akichi Moya.
Right.
We are far from the land of our grandfathers.
Yes, he loves to say that as though it means something.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of my favorite things to say too.
Yeah.
Uh, Another bad one I got down here is Once Upon a Time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's the Naomi Wildman holodeck episode, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's with the tree and the water guy, right?
that's
Is
the
that
one
the one?
I was thinking earlier was the one with Neelix, where he thought he was going to pass away or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, that one I think that one was Mortal Coil, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, I don't think either of them are very good, but
Yeah.
that's up there for me. Once Upon a Time, with like
Yeah.
those little holodeck characters and stuff. That
It's a pretty goofy one, yeah. And that episode, like her
out
mother
there.
is in danger too, I believe, right? She's
I
like
don't
on a
remember.
mission, and she's with Tom Paris and Tuvok, and I think it seems like they're gonna die, but they don't, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember that part. But yeah, I got a couple more here.
Yeah, go ahead.
The disease.
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah, that's
having
one
a
of
hard
mine
time.
too.
Well, I don't remember how that one went actually. I have it
That
written.
was Harry Kim gets
Oh,
a STD,
yeah. With the
basically.
where he got spots and he was like
Yeah, he got
an alien.
spots, and then he basically falls in love, and like I don't know, something at the end of the episode where he like tortures himself. He could have treatment, but he denies it. He wants
Oh
to like
yeah.
feel miserable or something. But what I hate about that one is Janeway treats him like he's an asshole for having sex with an alien. Like
Yeah.
as though that's a unique thing in Star Trek. Like, why is Harry Kim the only one being punished for doing that? Like,
I think it was because she loved Harry Kim so much. She was like a
yeah,
baby to her.
yeah,
And
he wanted him to be pure for forever.
yeah, and when he's going banging alien bitches, that's not
Yeah,
exactly what he she had in mind for him.
yeah, but that's like the best way to get promoted. That's how you could be a captain. That's what you got to start doing.
Well, that's one way to do it, I guess,
Yeah, I mean that's how Riker did it. I'm sure.
probably. Yeah. And Kirk, I mean, he moves his way up pretty quick too. He was captain by
Yeah,
35.
yeah, he
How did he
was
pull that off?
banging aliens. Must have
Banging
been.
aliens. Yeah. All right. Which ones do you have on your list?
Well, we can't get away with not mentioning Threshold, I guess. The one where Tom Paris turns into a salamander, and he makes Janeway turn into a salamander, and they have sex and
They
have
have kids.
babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he went faster than warp 10, which I
So
can't believe is like a limit. All of a sudden, like the original series, there were episodes where they went to like warp 15, and the ship
yeah.
was like falling apart.
Yeah.
But for some reason, warp 10 was a barrier that they couldn't breach.
Yeah. And it reverted his DNA back to like
Yeah, it turns you into a iguana basically, and you're
wait,
stuck as an iguana.
was that the one where he was like crazy in the medical bay too? Like,
Yeah, he was falling apart. He like pulled. It was like the Fly almost. He was like
yeah.
pieces of them were falling off. It was gross.
Yeah.
I think that episode actually won an Emmy for makeup
Really?
because of the effects in it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of ironic that one of the worst episodes is like getting rewarded.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous one. And what did they
Yeah.
do with the kids that Janeway and him had on the planet?
They just left them there. They're like without their mother and father. It's kind of fucked up. It's so silly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would have been worse if they took them, you know?
Yeah. Then before you know it, they'll become crew members. They'll be like in engineering, fucking around.
Well, wow, that brings up a good point. They were able to turn in, Janeway and Tom Paris into humans again. Like, couldn't they
Yeah. What?
turn those?
Turn them into human kids, basically.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they are human, right?
yeah, I guess that would they would have human DNA, right?
Yeah.
So, but then
They're
that means
just
that
as human as
Janeway and
Janeway and him were, you know?
yeah, that means that Janeway and that Tom Paris are like in this weird relationship then.
Yeah. They just couldn't live with that. They were able to make them turn into lizards and have kids, but they couldn't, take the one step forward of being like, take care of the offspring,
No, no, they had to leave them alone. They couldn't stand the sight of them. They treated those offspring like Worf treats Alexander. Like you just
Oh,
got they had to get out of there.
yeah. Well, I don't blame War for treating Alexander like that. That
I
kid is
don't blame him either. He didn't ask for it.
yeah. All right. So what else you got on yours?
Um, let's see. We got Course Oblivion is one of my least favorite because that's the one where it like nothing matters. It's not even the real Voyager crew. They're
Oh
like
yeah.
clones from that demon planet, and
That
they
was the
think
one that
they're
started out with Tom Paris and B'Elanna getting
yeah, they get
married,
married, and
and the
it's like a
rice starts
total
falling through
right.
the floor, right?
Yeah, there's like distortions in the ship, and everything's messed up. They start dying the further away they get from their planet.
Yeah.
So, and the end of the episode, they just die. So it's like,
Yeah.
what did we even watch this for? It's like,
Yeah, I don't understand a lot of parts about that because they thought they were the real Voyager crew, you
yeah,
know,
they did.
and they had no memory of being on that demon planet where they came from.
Yeah,
You know,
well, they did, but I guess they thought they left it just like the real Voyager crew did.
uh,
Uh, and
yeah,
then by the time they realized they have to go back, it was too late. The ship was falling apart, and Janeway still wanted to get to Earth because she still thought of it as home, even though she's just a clone. It
yeah,
was, they all turned into like a bunch of Ben Rileys,
uh,
basically.
yeah. That was a pretty crappy episode.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
I I,
Um,
I didn't mind it, but like I liked the story and that their clones would even try to get back to Earth too. Like
it's engaging, but by the end of it, I just feel like, well, what was the point of that?
yeah, what was the point of even showing it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's one that I usually skip, just
I,
personal
I
preference.
don't. I actually don't skip any Voyager episodes.
Really?
Yeah. When
Okay.
I go back and watch it, I just watch it straight through.
Yeah,
Even
I've done that too.
even
You
like
know,
the one where Neelix's planet gets bombed, or you remember they brought in a relevant guy.
yes, a relevant guy from Next Generation.
Yeah,
Uh,
bring him in, and he's like the guy who bombed Neelix's planet, Talaxia or something, with like
yeah,
the
he
worst
was
weapon
like,
ever. He was
yeah,
Oppenheimer 2.0.
yeah, that's basically what he was, and like he was a war criminal to Neelix, but he was like this
Yeah.
brilliant scientist. Uh, yeah, that one I don't like. Yeah, it's just a lot of Neelix episodes are surprisingly depressing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
For a character
weird
that's just full of levity,
yeah,
all the
most of
time.
the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand that. That's kind of a
Like
strange thing.
the episode where he gets his lungs stolen,
Yeah.
and it's like that's a horrifying episode.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there immobilized for the rest of his life until he can get. I guess he got Kess's lungs or something,
Yeah. He
or one
got
of her
one.
lungs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and somehow he's okay to function as a normal, person
yeah.
with one
Different species, one lung, and that's all he has.
3 year
And
old.
he's
Yeah.
never short on breath or anything. Yeah, and how long is that lung going to last? Isn't that going to
Yeah.
die off a
Isn't
lot
that gonna,
sooner
yeah.
because he doesn't
It's
live as
only good
long?
for 9 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of silly.
That was a really dumb episode too. I don't even
Yeah,
remember the name of that one. The one with the Vidians or whatever. They take his lung,
yeah. I that was the first one with the Vidians, I think,
maybe.
or it was definitely a very early episode, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the name of it. I just know that that one is not one that I like.
Yeah.
um, what else we got?
I got
Uh,
real life with the doctor.
oh, yeah, I hate that one. I
Yeah.
know some people like that one, but to me, that one is so needlessly depressing.
Yeah.
And it's like Tom Paris is like almost an asshole in the episode because the doctor's
Yeah.
like not wanting to deal with it. And he's like,
Yeah.
you should go and watch your family die because that's what a real human would have to do. And it's
Yeah.
like, but this doesn't have to happen.
Yeah,
You
it
would,
doesn't. You made this holographic family,
yeah,
like they should have holographic problems, not real problems.
yeah, just rewrite the program and
Yeah,
make his kid live, and it's problem solved. Like,
yeah, but no, nope. He had to live through his kid dying,
yeah, just
whatever.
pointless. And it's like, for what? Because he needs practice.
Yeah,
People don't practice that aspect of their life. They deal with it
yeah,
once, or as many times as they need to, and then they hopefully get over it. You know,
yeah. If they do,
yeah, if they do, but it's not something that you have to be ready for because no one can really be ready for something like that.
No, no, yeah. I thought that was pretty stupid too, and heart
Yeah,
of Tom Paris and Balana to be like, well, deal with it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
back in there with your family.
yeah. Just needlessly sad. It's just, and that's one that I do skip a lot because it's sad for the sake of being sad, and I feel like it's not natural. It's like you're gonna be sad by the end of this episode, whether you like it or not. It's like it's punishing the audience almost.
It's punishing you for watching it almost.
Yeah,
That's how I felt in that episode. I was like, oh, why'd they not want me to watch the show this week? Yeah.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
All right. I got Fury where
Oh
Cat
yeah.
back.
Cass
Cat,
comes back. She's super old, and she's like the Emperor from Star Wars. She's like crushing everything. For like, I don't even know why she's pissed at Voyager. She
I,
wants to change the past
yeah.
for
At
some reason.
sudden she just got mad at the crew and
Yeah,
decided to out on them and
it
like
was. It was just.
by or something since we last saw her, you know.
Yeah, it was like it reminded me a little bit of Star Wars. Like there's this character that fell to the dark side and has these force powers. It's like, and it never made sense to me. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Um,
I wasn't a big fan.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind Cass coming back, but she should come back and be nice for an episode. Like, don't try to kill the crew.
No, I didn't have a problem with the actress who played Cass or anything like that. I just couldn't stand her as a character. Like
Yeah, me too.
it's just a little too strange. Like being
And so much of the early episodes were so Kess focused.
yeah.
She's almost like Wesley in that way, where like a lot of the early episodes were
Now
centered around her.
gone by, season 4 or 5, like
Yeah, she's gone by the end of or the beginning of season 4 was when she left.
yeah.
They figured we got 7 of 9, so you got to go. Somebody's got to go. It might as well be you.
Yeah,
It's like
that
they had to make a roster move.
what was the casting director like? He's like, all right, we need a hotter girl. We need
I
like
think that's what it was. They were like, we need like some sex appeal for this show.
yeah,
So we're gonna get the hottest actress we could find, and we're gonna put her in a cat suit.
yeah,
Uh, but thankfully, she developed into like a legitimately decent character. She kind of has the same character arc as the Doctor in a lot of ways, and Data, where they're trying to find their humanity again.
yeah. I feel like almost Spock too in that way,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of trying to be half human. You know,
right. But I'm a sucker for that. I like that sort of thing. So that's why I like 7 of 9.
yeah. I like 7 and 9. Okay, I just I don't really feel the necessity for a character like that. But seven
Yeah, I
was
don't
a
think it was needed, but
but at the time I was all for it, but
yeah,
now looking back on it, it's like what could they have done differently? Could they have gone with another character or kept Kess on longer or just done without that character completely? And would the show
yeah.
be without them?
It's hard to say. From what I understand, the ratings were not good at the time, so they needed to do something. And I
Yeah,
guess they went with 7 and 9, and that got people tuning in. So
yeah, that makes
it
sense.
worked out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that brings me to another episode I have on the list, Unimatrix Zero, part
yeah,
1 and 2. Uh,
yeah,
that was a weird concept, like that the Borg, even while they were assimilated, were like meeting at this place when they slept, and they
yeah.
in like this one joined dream together. It was pretty silly, I thought.
It was almost like having a Matrix situation a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh, and it's in the title, Unimatrix, but it's like the Matrix in a lot of ways. But yeah, I didn't like that, and it also is one of those episodes that makes the Borg look so much weaker than they really are. Voyager beats the Borg too much.
yeah,
They just beat the Borg too much, and the cliffhanger for that was terrible, where Janeway, Tuvok, and B'Elanna get assimilated, but they like intentionally did that.
yeah,
I forget how it worked out, but I remember thinking, "There's no way I'm going to be satisfied with the part 2 of this episode." Even at the time, I was like, "This is. I don't think this is going to work out."
yeah. Did you watch that when it was on TV, or did you watch it afterwards?
No, I was watching Voyager at that time. Yeah, I was watching Voyager, so I saw that then. Yeah.
Yeah, watching it week to week, and then going a whole season after they just got assimilated.
Yeah.
It's what's gonna
It's
happen.
like, what do you even do after that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a point in the episode where the Borg Queen specifically threatens Harry Kim somehow.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, you'll see, Harry, or something like that. And nothing happens with that. They don't There's no expansion on what happens with the Borg Queen and Harry. That was just a total fake out. It
Uh,
was so ridiculous.
saving any secrets for Picard season 4. Oh, wait, there is none. What are they going to call the next show?
The next Star Trek show?
Yeah, the hypothetically the one with 7 and 9 in it.
Oh, I don't know what they're going to call. Oh, actually, yeah, I do know. They do have a name for it. Star Trek Legacies, I think, or something like that.
That's
Uh, yeah, it's going to be about Picard Jr., Jack Crusher, and Seven of Nine, and Raffi running around on the Titan, I guess.
yeah,
I can't get excited for something like that. I just can't.
yeah.
Can't do it.
I think it would be great if they let Lieutenant Shelby live, but they didn't.
They killed her off and made her look like a moron.
Yeah, looked like it was all her fault.
Yeah.
Like
Like, let's get every ship in Starfleet in this one location somehow,
yeah,
and then just make them totally vulnerable, and it's all her fault. She thought it was a great idea
yeah.
somehow.
Good job, Shelby.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be one of the smarter characters. Like she was good at fighting the Borg.
That's all she was supposed to be smart.
Yeah,
She was
and
like,
they also killed off Ensign Rowe, who was like Captain Rowe or Commander Rowe, or at that point. Yeah,
I feel like that was just brushed under the rug too. Yeah,
yeah, just it was a shock value sacrifice, is what it was. It was just shock the audience with
yeah,
a death. You know.
yeah. I guess. Yeah. Well, hopefully, Star Trek Legacy doesn't bring in, the Borg Queen again and bring Harry Kim into it.
I mean, the Borg is all they've done in the Picard series. That every episode, every season had Borg in it
Somehow. What
somehow.
did the first season also?
Yeah, Hugh was in it, and the Romulans were like working on Borg ships.
Yeah.
It wasn't as much Borg as the later seasons, but it's like each season you got more and more Borg.
Well, Borg works.
Borg cells, I guess. I mean, that's why Voyager did it so much.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a strange choice to bring the changelings in at all,
Yeah,
and
they
Picard,
turned out to be a fake out too.
because
You
change
know.
aren't in. We were talking about it not too long ago.
Yeah,
The season Next Generation that changes shape. The one
yeah.
that was really impressed by that
Yeah,
lady.
that's the girl who turns into like an Ewok and like falls in love with Wesley
Yeah.
in
What
season one, I think, season
one?
1 or 2.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that they were another shapeshifter,
Yeah.
but I wonder if they're not the same species as the shapeshifter you see in Star Trek 6, because
Oh,
that seems a little bit more like that, like
things in Star
yeah,
Trek, like before the Great Link or whatever, that species have changed,
right, yeah, but
with
they're not like liquid, so
yeah.
I guess that's the difference is that the changelings are like goo when they're normal.
Yeah. But they already came up with the idea for changelings like back then,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah,
didn't.
well, the first episode of the whole Star Trek franchise, the Man Trap is a shapeshifter, you
Yeah,
know?
it was the last of its kind, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But, they've had that idea rolling around for a while, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny that they brought them back to be the bad guys, in
Yeah.
in Picard.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
what other episode you got?
I think that's pretty much all of them. I don't have any others we didn't mention. I do want to mention for villains in Voyager that are terrible, the Kazon, uh, with
Yeah.
their salad heads, was
Yeah.
some of the least threatening villains in Star Trek history, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That was such a bad introduction as with them as like the main villains in season one. Because they're so non-threatening. They don't have the technology to compete with Voyager. They're
Yeah.
just like these pirates, and they're stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the con kind of sucked.
Yeah, they were like Klingons, but dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. They were like Klingons or Nausicaans, but
Yeah, kind of like that. but they had every bit of technology they had, they stole. So
Yeah.
they're not really a match for Voyager, and so how could they ever be a threatening villain?
Yeah.
Yeah, they only got threatening was when Seska started leading them for some reason and came back with Chakotay's kid.
It's, as you could see, is a laughable point.
Yeah,
Very
pretty
silly
bad.
story. Why any of the Seska stuff? Why was it happening? You know,
I don't know.
like
I think
seeing that disguised herself as a Starfleet officer, but waited until then to expose herself. Like, what was her end game plan? You know,
yeah,
like
I don't know. She started doing evil shit right away and risking exposure when I guess she was trying to find a way home is
yeah.
what she really wanted to do. But I think she had a lot of potential as a villain, but they threw it away. They didn't do anything with her really, and because she has this link to Chakotay, and they never developed Chakotay, so it's like who cares about either one of these characters at that point?
Yeah, that was a pretty silly episode too. I don't
Yeah,
name of it or remember it.
yeah, I don't remember a lot of the early episodes. I can't really name.
The one,
Uh,
what happened to the baby? Did the baby die?
no, the baby I think turned out to not even be his. Right? It's she was trying to pretend it was like a Jason Vigo situation. I thought, right? Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I think it was like a Kazan baby, and
It would
I
do,
don't know what. Yeah,
but
I don't know what happened. I could be wrong about that. It's been a long time since I've seen that one.
yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it too. But
Yeah,
one of the other bad ones you wanted to mention, I think, was Tuvix, right?
yeah, too big. I don't know if it's a bad one, but it's one that I don't like.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't like Tuvix as a character. I think he's weird.
Yeah.
I think the first thing he does is like he starts creeping on Kess, which I guess he would because he's like part Neelix, so he's got that in him.
Yeah.
But
The
you
not
know,
spoken part overtake that, you know, and
yeah,
like,
it was weird because it's like he starts off doing both jobs. He's the cook and the security officer. But then they come up with a way to get Neelix and Tuvok back, but they have to kill him to do it. And it's like it's one of the most debated episodes of Star Trek because of that. And I find the debate so tedious and frustrating. It's like I
relevant.
don't care. I don't want to talk about how Janeway killed this guy. I would have killed this guy. He was fucking weird. And honestly, I'm glad we got Neelix and Tuvok back. I did not like Tuvix as a character. A lot of people wanted to stay. They wanted to stay as Tuvix, which would have been weird.
For Tuvix, you know, like I felt like it, but at the same time, you had to feel bad for two other beings at the same time, you know,
Yeah,
like,
like they didn't ask for it either. They didn't want to die.
yeah.
You know.
So that would be the way that you'd have to respond to them too. You're killing Neelix and Tuvok at the same time by keeping this guy alive, you know,
Yeah,
like,
the only time I feel bad for him is at the end when he's sort of pleading for his life and no one seems to care.
yeah,
Uh, and Janeway has the look of an executioner on her face. She's like a sociopath
yeah.
doing a hit for the mafia or something.
Uh,
And it's like, why couldn't she at least wrestle with it a little more? Janeway does look bad in the episode. Don't get me wrong, but I just hate the debate about it. I'm so tired of it.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's a pretty silly debate too, and
Yeah,
Tuvix as a character, he kind of sucked. You know,
yeah.
there wasn't much to go on with him. You know, he was the lesser of both worlds. You know,
Yeah, exactly. And from a logic standpoint, two crewmen are more useful than one. You
yeah,
know, he can't do both of those jobs all the time. So
yeah,
you might as well get both of them back. They're
yeah,
shorthanded as it is. So it just makes more sense for the whole ship.
yeah. One of the episodes I had just remembered while we were talking that drove me nuts is that stupid one where Chakotay and Janeway both get a disease and they got to
Right.
on a planet and Voyager leaves them there.
Yeah.
Like
They leave him on the planet. Chakotay makes a hot tub out
Chakotay
of him. or
Fast,
something and like gives it to Janeway as a gift.
and there are monkeys on the planet. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's really relevant, but there were monkeys on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. There were monkeys on the planet and they're like trying to survive on this planet. And it seemed like there was going to be a romance situation, but it never happened.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was a short
so
episode. Like all in all, like it was strange of Voyager to leave them on the planet first off,
yeah.
quarantine them on the ship somewhere.
Yeah.
Like why wouldn't you just keep them on the ship? We got force fields and all kinds of other shit.
Yeah.
Like
Set them up in the shuttle bay or something, like there's plenty of room in there.
yeah, you're gonna figure it out anyway. Like might as well
But
keep it somewhere close.
But I guess if power went down, then the whole ship would get infected or something. Well, or why not just put him in a shuttlecraft and tractor it? You
Yeah,
know?
well, a better solution than leaving them on a planet.
Yeah, exactly.
And they all had to convince Tuvok and rally Tuvok to go. You
Yeah,
know, uh,
exactly. And Tuvok was going to be the captain at that point.
yeah.
They
All right.
probably would have gotten home sooner. He would have been logical about it.
Tuvok, he turned his back on being the captain though because he was too loyal to Janeway. Yeah,
Yeah,
which I think is kind of ridiculous too.
yeah, I know. They had this old friendship, but
Tuvok
did they
has
ever?
to me, like I like Tuvok all right, but he's not one of my favorite characters because he's just inconsistent. He's like he's
Yeah,
Vulcan and it's convenient for the plot, but then
yeah,
he's not when it's not, and it's I guess with Spock, I think that's okay because he's half human, you know.
yeah, exactly.
But
I know what you mean. As a full Vulcan, he should be more Vulcan. But what I like about him is that I don't think him and Spock would actually get along. I think they would have a lot of arguments because Spock is a little bit more of a pacifist, and Tuvok is more aggressive in security measures and like taking tactical advantages. He's
yeah,
much more ready for a fight than I think Spock would be. Spock's more diplomatic,
yeah.
you
When
know.
you change for a full Vulcan, you would think that they'd be on the other side of it, the more
Well,
logical.
I think it shows that there's like two ways to look at or multiple ways to look at logic. Like to that's how Tuvok sees it, and he could make the argument why that's good, and
Yeah,
Spock would make another argument why it's bad. So
yeah.
I
That's
think I don't think logic is necessarily has to be a a beeline to one specific thing for Vulcans anyway.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
All right, so compared to Enterprise, which was the show that came after this, uh,
yeah.
how would you compare them? Did you like Enterprise more or less?
I like it less than Voyager. But see Enterprise is a weird one because like I think the later seasons, the season 3 and 4 and even 2 are a lot better than one. One is not a good season.
Yeah,
And the first season of every Star Trek show isn't really good, except for the the original series.
yeah,
But to me, Enterprise is another show that kind of wasted potential. It's also I say that, but it also didn't have that much potential to begin with because it's a prequel. So there's
yeah.
only so much they could have done
That's
within reason,
what I
you
had with
know?
is that they've set in a prequel time, so
Yeah,
and they did it again with Strange New Worlds. It's like
yeah,
it's all only so much you can do because you got to keep the continuity, like
yeah,
to keep the continuity and keep the story, as a whole. You can't come up with new creative things like Discovery did. That's why they were just like, screw it, let's go 1,000 years in the future, so we're not dealing with this anymore.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
really the whole reason they did that, just so they would,
yeah. So they wouldn't be limited by anything
yeah,
it was kind of a course correction on their part. But yeah, you're right. I mean, because it's a prequel, it was limited. They did spice it up a little bit with the temporal Cold War,
yeah,
so it made it seem like things could change if it went badly.
yeah, and
Uh,
fighting against time,
yeah,
like enemy somewhere in the future.
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
change the past. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But
And I like season 4 of Enterprise, really. That's probably my favorite season, I think. See, it's either 3 or 4 of my favorites. But what I don't like is the ending. The ending, I think, is one of the worst endings for any Star Trek show, where it just turns out to be a Riker holodeck program
it was like
from
a
years ago.
next generation,
Yeah,
end of Enterprise. And to
yeah,
play Hook, the character that you never meet in Enterprise, too.
yeah.
Like
So it makes you wonder, like, how much of the show was a holodeck? Was he always there playing this game with the Enterprise?
it
Where he's
brings
just observing through the cook.
me whatever from DS9, that Beyond the Stars. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, yeah. Where it's like it's a totally different. It's like different reality. They actually didn't they say they wanted.
They wanted to end Deep Space Nine on that note.
Yeah, they wanted it. They wanted Deep Space Nine to be the fabrication in. Oh, what's the character's name? That Cisco played in that.
Something.
Kill something. I forget his name.
Not Benny.
But they wanted it to be his written story that he wrote.
Yeah.
And Rick Berman, who was the producer, was like, "Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that every Star Trek show was written by this character?" Like, like he kind of drew the line and said, "You can't do that." And I'm kind of glad that he did. That would have been a little
I'm glad
terrible.
too. I actually can't stand that episode out of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, it's a fan favorite. A lot of people love that one. I have mixed feelings about it, but
And show
it's
all in a different role a little bit, but to me the story's uninteresting. It's about this guy writing a sci-fi story. you
yeah,
know
and it feels more like a Twilight Zone, like a standalone Twilight Zone episode. That's what it feels like. It doesn't really necessarily feel like a Star Trek episode,
yeah,
you know?
the same kind of one-off, or the same kind of storytelling device that they did with the end of Enterprise with Riker. How
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Yeah,
we're going to end it as if that was all just one holodeck program taken from Riker's point of view. Like that's the way they made it seem anyway, and that's
yeah.
the way that they were trying to end DS9, was to make it seem like it was all that one sci-fi writer's idea. You
Yeah,
know,
and that's always a bad idea because that every time they do, oh, this was all a dream,
yeah,
it's like hated by people. So that would have been bad. But I think the episode has good points and bad, but I almost don't even think of it as Star Trek in a weird way. Like it's just like a different story. It's
yeah,
almost like a story about Star Trek. It's almost sort of like a non-comedic version of Galaxy Quest in a
yeah,
little bit of ways because it's
yeah,
so meta, you know?
yeah. It's like looking through the third wall or the fourth
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, exactly.
But all right, I think, well, that pretty much wraps up this week's podcast. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
we covered a lot. It was pretty good.
Yeah, we covered a lot. I definitely have to go back and watch the one where Chakotay makes the bathtub for Janeway
Yeah,
again.
yeah, that's not a great one.
Now I'll probably go back and watch some Good Doctor episodes though, because
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Doctor. Even the bad ones are pretty good. So
I didn't mention earlier, I really like that opera one that he's in.
yeah,
Yeah,
I like that one too. The only thing I don't like about that is how eager he is to leave Voyager because that's one of the later seasons.
yeah, yeah. That,
He,
well, he
it
was
would,
gonna be a star.
yeah, he was so wrapped up with being a star, but I feel like
He's going to be
God,
the
he would have regretted that so much if he left.
yeah, yeah. But either way, I thought that was a pretty funny one.
Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah, and he like dresses up as the clown at the end. He's like Pagliacci, the clown, and he's like, "How do I look?" And you look like a clown.
All right. All right. Well, I guess that does it for this week, uh,
Yep,
or this period, this podcast. So
yep,
next time, we'll probably be talking about Deep Space Nine or the Star Trek movies. I think
yeah,
that's been on our mind lately, and
yeah.
I'd go back and watch them again just to take some notes. you know.
Yeah, exactly.
but but I hope you have a good week over there, Ed.
Yep, you too, Tommy. Thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah,
It was
no.
fun, and we'll see you next time, I guess.
Oh, I gotta say, I like your shirt too. Show your shirt. Yeah, there it is. Darmok and Jalad.
Yep,
Agra.
good concert.
Yeah, it makes sense as a concert, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, I hope you take it easy, Ed.
Yep, you too. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
All right, take care.
See you later.